Hiding among the prairies, forests, and wetlands of the Fort Worth Nature Center is a cryptid like no one has ever seen before. Half goat, half man, and sporting fur and scales, the Lake Worth Goatman has made its mid-century horror among locals. Tonight, we dive into the story behind the Lake Worth monster. Yes, it's both a goat man and a monster. It's kind of confusing when you're reading all the literature. Anyway, on to the show. Welcome back to Hometown Haunts and to our latest season, Season 5 of the podcast. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I am haunted historian, horror artist, and host of the show, Kat Cloco. And along with me on this journey into the unknown are my friends Christina Wald and Jen Kohler.
Hey. Hi.
Yay. It's been a while since we've been recording. We've had
Yes.
a very busy spring. So some show news. Alaska Robotics Minicon was awesome. Thank you for everyone that came to visit my table in Juneau and the workshops and all of the drawing events we did and the library talk. It was great. I always enjoy Juneau and I love meeting all the people that live there. And somehow the sun came out. It stunned all of us because it wasn't expected to be sunny out in warm weather while I was in Juneau. And yet again, this is the second year in a row the sun popped out early and was like, hey, I'm not going to rain. It's going to be sunny. And then fool you all into thinking that Alaska is always this like sunny and temperate. So it's not. It did rain eventually, but yeah, it was wonderful. And then some other on my side, I'll be at the Small Press Expo in Bethesda, Maryland, September 14th and 15th. The cartoon. Yes, I am very excited about that. I've never tabled at SPX before. And I'm
Excellent. That's a big one.
I feel like a big deal now. I feel like a big deal. I'm like, way to go, Kat. You did good. Like, here I am patting my shoulders. Give myself a hug. And I'll be at Cartoon Crossroads Columbus in Columbus, Ohio, September 28th and 29th. It's a busy September. And happy birthday, Christina.
I know, right? Yeah, it's on my birthday. Nice. Yeah.
And then we could celebrate in Columbus.
Yay!
Yay!
I'll buy myself some extra comics.
There we go. And then the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities issue 3 will be kickstarting this October. Woo-hoo. So from my end, that is everything. It will be fun. We're working on the last bits of it now. So
Excellent. And I guess my news, I'm going to Romania next week, so I'll be leaving the 26th. I know, I'm really excited about it. Packing all the stuff and figuring out what art supplies to bring.
Isn't that a hard thing to pack? Like, I know with Alaska, I put out all my normal art supplies and I'm like, which ones am I going to bring with me? What fits?
Yeah, that's always, I just have like a couple watercolor kits that I really like. And of course the mini palette's really nice to carry around. Because we're running this tour, I also made some cute little sketchbooks that, we put a stamp on. So we bought
those are adorable
stamp with our logo and it's really cute. And so I'm bringing some stuff in the lanyards for everybody with their names on them. And so I have to do some preparation like that. I won't have to do that probably for the Tuscany trip because I assume that, Lisa will do that, but I do that for this trip. And, just so everybody can get to know each other. And we are doing some workshops. The art community there is really friendly and pretty robust. Like everybody seems to know each other. Last time we were there, it was weird because we were sketching with the urban sketchers in Bucharest and all these people kept joining us. There's a woman like was Romanian, but from Berlin that was a children's book artist. She joined us and like all these different people saw that they were sketching with these visiting Americans and it ended up being like I got interviewed on English radio.
Oh, wow.
Kind of a weird but fun experience. And everybody was really hospitable and stuff, because you don't want to be too disruptive, but they were
Right.
very hospitable and welcoming,
Yeah.
which was nice.
That is
Um,
good.
and it can happen any chapter. We had just last zoo outing, there was a woman visiting from Ottawa, and she wanted to sketch with us. And fortunately, she did meet us for the throwdown, but I was trying to get a hold of her because I was trying to get her into the zoo because I have a +1 pass, and
Mhm.
she didn't have her phone on her, so she didn't get my
No.
messages. So I felt really
Mm.
bad.
No,
Yeah.
But
that is
she said she'd sketched with us before, and whenever they visit Cincinnati, she tries to. So that's kind
Oh,
of the
Aw.
neat
fun.
thing about, yeah, that's kind of the neat thing about, urban sketching is like there's chapters everywhere,
Mhm.
Mhm.
all over the world, so that's kind of exciting. And then, just my latest kids book, Crit, just came out, and it's really cute. It's about a
Mhm.
Yay.
mean hippo. I don't usually get to do stories about a mean protagonist,
Yeah.
No.
but it's about a little baby hippo that acts very sweet to everybody, but behind everybody's backs, he's being really mean, which
Does
is
he
really
eat
fun. I
anyone like
like
bugs?
it was fun because he was such a kind of devilish character, and
Uh-huh.
I like it when I get to do humorous stories. Like not
Mhm.
all kids books have humor in them, and this was one that just happened to have one, so it was cool. So
That is cool.
yeah,
That
yeah.
reminds me of Muggs the Hippo, which I learned about from My Favorite Murder.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Oh.
I don't know if you've ever seen the animated version of that.
Mm-mm.
there's an
Um,
animated version of My Favorite Murder. That's cool.
Yeah.
so they will do if there's a particular story that is very humorous, they have an animator named Nick Terry who will
Mhm.
animate the segment, and it
Mhm.
can be anywhere between 2 minutes to maybe about 5.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And in this particular case, he animated Muggs the Hippo in a personal encounter somebody had, or not a personal encounter. Well, yeah, it was a personal encounter, but they were reading the news story about the encounter, about Muggs trying to, like, placed a child in its mouth, but did not kill them or eat them. It was just in its mouth. So it's humorous. I'm not doing justice for this. Please just go look it up. Nick Terry does very fun animations. So
One day it would be great if we have animations. Probably not
yeah,
at the moment, but maybe one day.
someday.
Well,
When
hippos
when
don't
we
eat meat, do they? They just eat lettuce and veggies?
I mean,
I don't
They're
think they
very
eat
dangerous,
meat.
and I know
I
they
know they're
very
dangerous because 'cause they're
dangerous.
huge.
They
but
kill
I don't
people.
know if they actually eat the people that they kill.
They're
No.
not like bears,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just, yeah,
which
like you said, big and aggressive.
Yeah.
yeah, they're big and aggressive. They're so heavy when they're out of water, but they're super
Yeah.
territorial.
They could
It's always
easily
hard
stomp
when
you.
Yes.
painting hippos because hippos, for the most part, and apologies to Fiona, for the most part, like when you're looking at reference of them, they're extremely scary looking and somewhat hideous. I mean, no offense, they're probably attractive to each other, but it's kind of like, how realistic do I make this? And with this one, I erred on the side of cute rather than realistic because they're just not. I mean, actually, BB is one of the few attractive hippos. Like most of them are pretty scary looking.
I think you've thought about this too much, Christina.
I've had to draw.
Understandably so.
I've painted 2 hippo books now. I've looked
When
at
you
multiple hippo pictures.
Yeah, you just stare at hippo pictures and yeah, I totally can understand the thought processes of just, like, staring at hippos for so
Mhm.
long, but the it's just I like that. They're so unattractive except for to each other. That slayed me. That was
Well,
good.
it's
Um,
that's one of the things, like when you're doing storytelling, a big part of it is how do you depict something? Like how realistic
oh,
do you
yeah.
make it? How cartoony do you make it as part of the start storytelling?
Yes.
Because sometimes for effect you might make something more realistic looking, and then you might go into like a very sort of idealized look. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It does a lot for the heavy lifting of storytelling, but
Oh, yeah, like, how much
sometimes,
do you want somebody to identify
yeah.
with something depends on how cartoony you make it,
Mhm. Well,
but
horror or, telling some of these stories where there's murders or whatever, it's like how graphic do you wanna be, or do you want to
Yeah.
make it less graphic.
Make it look like a ketchup bottle's being squirted. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
like yeah. No, I get that. It was just the way you were describing it, Christina. It was just
Yeah,
so
it was challenging to kind of decide. And so I actually reworked some of them because I thought I made them look a little bit too much like, and I said he should really be cuter because he's kind of a little devilish.
yeah.
Mhm.
Also, their skin texture is super hard
It
to
is.
illustrate
Yeah.
because it looks smooth from far away because of the water. When you get up
Mhm,
close, there's actually a lot of texture to it, and there's little
Mhm.
bumps and all that.
mhm.
So and
And
hairs.
and a lot of times with that, you're like, if I draw that, it's gonna look really gross. And so then you're like, and this is lot like a book about hippos, like scientifically.
Right.
Yeah,
So
you
then you
don't need
kind of
an
take
anatomy book.
yeah, it doesn't. You could take a lot of license with it.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
took a bit of
it's
license.
I'm drawing a lot of dinosaurs recently, and I can completely,
Exactly.
it's how do you do that texture for skin? So talking
Mhm.
about something with a lot of strange skin textures,
And weird eyeballs.
weird eyeballs, we're going on to our Lake Worth monster, AKA Goatman. Um, so it's been a while since we recorded, everyone, can you tell? Tonight's show topic was actually suggested by my friend and fellow cartoonist Jason Poland, who creates the comic My Dad is Dracula, which you can find at My Dad is Dracula on Instagram. A few he's a fellow cryptid enthusiast and a resident of the great state of Texas, and he thought that Goatman was a good addition to the show when he learned about the podcast. So thank you, Jason. This was a wonderful little cryptid rabbit hole to go down. So, also, if you, our listener, have any recommendations for show topics, we always accept them. So you can send them over to hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com and we will read them, as well as ghost stories and other cryptid sighting stories. We enjoy all of it. All right. So some of the sources for tonight's show, because I was negligent and didn't write them all down. This is, I think, the first time in what, 5 years. Oops. Um, but a lot of it's from the Fort Worth Water Department's HTOMG podcast.
Huh.
They did a special in 2019. It was a 4-part podcast series about the Goatman, where they interviewed people that worked for the nature preserve
Hmm.
and got really deep into the lore and everything. The other major contributor to the sources is the Fort Worth Star Telegram, which is the local newspaper. They did a lot of interviews in 1969. And then there's also a Fox affiliate that I neglected to write down. They did a follow-up interviews back in 2009. So we got a lot of history going on with this, uh, starting back in 1969.
I think it's
So
pretty
that
amazing that a water department has their own podcast.
and it's amazing. I will say go listen to it. You learn so much more than what you expect. They cover. I did not expect the water department to cover the Goatman story, but they do because it takes place around Lake Worth and around this preserve and refuge. So, it it was good. They did a good job, and
Wow.
I only wish that they talked about maps that were hand drawn back in the '60s, and I only wish that I could have found, like, photos of these 'cause they talk about taking photos, and then I didn't find any. So, it was good. I liked it. Alright. So, the summer of 1969 was hot and humid in Tarrant County, Texas. Shoreline Road near Greer Island was a popular place for young couples to hang around during the summer, and on one night, July 9th, was no different. According to eyewitness John Reichart, along with his wife and 2 other young couples, they were all parked at Lake Worth around midnight that night. Suddenly, a creature jumped out of the woods and onto their car. It attempted to grab Reichardt's wife, but she dodged the creature and they fled from the area. In the process of fleeing, the creature cut an 18-inch gash in the side panel of Reichardt's car with its clawed hand. This started the legend of the Lake Worth monster. It is believed that the monster lives on the shores of the West Fork of Trinity River down into the Lake Worth proper area, surviving on a steady diet of fish and chickens. The Goatman is described to be 7 feet tall, roughly 350 pounds, with a pair of horns or just one horn growing from its head, giving it the moniker the Goatman, like its cousins, the Pope Lick Monster and Prince George County's Goatman in Maryland. It also sports a thick white fur coat and has scales on its back like a dragon and walked bipedally on two goat legs. It also has some massive clawed hands. So this is an interesting chimera of a creature that is haunting uh, uh, Fort Worth or Lake Worth in Fort Worth, Texas. For the first 2 months, local police just laughed off the earlier encounters that were called in as pranks. After John Reichardt's car was allegedly damaged by the Goatman, however, he got a group of police officers to accompany him to the area at Lake Worth where he and his wife had the encounter. Because of this encounter and other reported accounts with the monster, the police then opened an investigation. Officer James S. McGee theorized at the time to the Fort Worth Star Telegram that the couples were victims of a prank. So this is a police officer in 69 saying, "It's a prank, guys. It was a prank." That someone had either thrown a dummy at the car or cha- had been chased by pranksters. Sorry. That either pranksters had thrown a dummy at the Reichardt's car or that the Reichardts had been chased by teenagers in an ape suit. And McGee said he made the statement that that's a dangerous way to pull a prank. Someone is liable to get themselves shot.
Okay, but
So,
what's your evidence, dude?
what is the evidence?
Yeah,
And
does
I
he have
also
any?
like how in 69 it was known as the Lockworth monster.
Mm,
And I'm like, haha, good pun. Good pun.
yeah.
Um, with a Bacardi ad next to it.
Nice.
But, yeah, it for mid-July of 1969, there are dozens of articles written, and
Mm,
it also went on to the AP Newswire.
yeah.
So it was making its way across the United States and all over the world. After news hit of the Goatman, several groups of teenagers, spectators, reporters, and adults with guns went to the location to look for the Goatman. "Here was a Sasquatch, our very own," said Rick Pratt, director of the Greer Island Nature Center at the time. He continues, "It was a party. What the hell? Let's go." And I like that attitude. It's very, very honest, which is kind of refreshing. The following day, on July 10th, the Goatman appeared again to local spectators. Looking angry, the Goatman hurled a tire and rim at the groups of gawkers 500 feet off a cliff. In fear, the spectators fled the area. The following evenings, however, did not see the Goatman, although thrill seekers flooded the Lake Worth area. Police were concerned with the influx of visitors hunting the creature and that somebody would accidentally get shot. This is a reoccurring statement from the police, just going, somebody's going to shoot somebody else because they were coming in with whiskey bottles and beer and all sorts of stuff.
It is Texas.
And it is, I won't even blame it being Texas. It was the 60s.
That too.
It was the 60s. Let's not fool anyone. Everyone was doing that. I have heard similar stories from Ohio, so I'm not blaming Texas on this one. In the flood of interest with Lake Worth and Greer Island, which is ironically actually not an island, you can get onto it through a driveway, ghost stories started to trickle out into the wider population. And I was like, ooh, ghost stories, yay. One local named Mike Kinson reportedly witnessed ghosts on Greer Island. He is quoted saying, "The ghosts appear in a great mist in the shape of men. All features, the see-through men are discernible," he said. As reported by the Fort Worth Star Telegram on July 14th, Kinson mentioned that he had seen the monster while looking for ghosts on the island. Which I'm like, wow, that's really a cross section of ghost hunting and cryptozoology. You're just out on a ghost investigation on an island in the middle of the night in the late 60s, looking for ghosts, waiting for the mist to rise, and boom, there's your goat man just walking by. Like, hey, buddy,
I feel
you
like
roast
they
some
might have been
marshmallows?
indulging in things, perhaps a little.
The 1960s.
Yeah, maybe a lot.
Maybe a lot. Um, I don't know. I as somebody who's been on a ghost investigation, like let's say Gettysburg, and just you're just sitting around and waiting in the dark, and apparently this area makes there's just a lot of strange noises that come out of it anyway because it's a nature center and not a preserve, it's a refuge. So there's a lot of sounds that are coming out of here from all the different animals, and if you're not familiar, they can get really scary. So yeah. Anyway, the sightings quieted down as summer came to a close. Naturalists in the area suspected that what people were seeing was actually a bobcat in the nature center. Believers of the Goatman questioned how a bobcat could throw a tire and rim 500 feet at a group of gawkers, which is a reasonable question to ask. The Gawker group was about 30 people who witnessed this tire being thrown at them. So it wasn't like one or two people, it was 30. So, Sally Ann Clark, a resident of the area, documented and interviewed all the encounters. According to newspapers, about 100 people had eyewitness accounts of the Goatman, and Clark recorded as many as she could. By October 1969, she had published a report of her findings, and I apparently forgot to put in the photo, but basically, she interviewed anyone that she could for their story, and people gave her stories and also photos of what they had taken of the goat man. So some of the encounters from the book, and the book is not quite lost media. People do have copies of it, but it's hard to find. A group of 5 people were out at the lake and they witnessed the monster breaking a heavy branch off a big oak tree. And when they say heavy branch, it's like a big thick one that has a diameter of at least 5 feet. It's a pretty big. She has a photo in the book, and a historical society had scans of these photos, and it just showed like this gigantic oak tree and this just missing branch on the ground, and the witnesses claimed that the goat man just snapped it off because it had unhuman strength. Jim Stevens was a resident who encountered the monster one night when it jumped on the hood of his Mustang while he was driving with 2 friends. Although they tried to basically shake the monster loose by swerving the car, it didn't jump off the Mustang until he hit a tree, which that's an unfortunate end for that cryptid encounter. And he's the one, I believe, who mentioned that it was so tall because he was himself about 6'2", and he said the goat man was taller than him and about 350 pounds. I believe that's who it was that made those claims. Around the time of Clark's book signings, a photo was taken of the Lake Worth monster and was released. This was in November of 1969. Known as the Allen Plaster photograph, named after the man who took the photo, it shows a large hairy animal walking through the bushes. The photo was given to Sally Ann Clark during one of her book signings, and I forgot to post the photo into the our shared document, but basically it's a profile view of what looks like a very woolly creature with a very small head. I don't see any horns on it, but what's really discernible is the thick woolly hair that is basically encasing the animal, and it's walking through a bush. So you can't see the face, it's just the profile. And it, to me, kinda looked like a giant Muppet, but it was night photography wasn't done in the '60s, I don't think. Was it, Jen? Do you know?
I'm not sure, but I'm guessing yes. It's always been done at some point or the other. It's just a matter of how popular it would have been, like spirit photography.
True.
You know,
Let me see if I can find a good it
there was also a photo, and I think it came from Ireland, I'm not sure, that a woman claimed to photograph fairies.
yes, I remember that one.
And
That's the one that
when
stumped,
was when was that?
That was the
that was
1800s.
That
yeah,
was the
that was
1800s? Okay.
yeah, because that one, stumps Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
He
Right.
believed I mean,
He
he was
believed it.
I mean, he was
Yeah.
pretty credulous, so, I mean, he believed everything that he saw, but he did
True.
believe that the Lady Coddington's fairies were real.
Yeah, okay. I am putting that
Yeah, I
is
just
If there's a will, there's a way.
yeah,
it looks like a white floofy.
It
it
doesn't I
looks
don't
like a
even see
Muppet.
a head.
Yeah, I don't see a
It
head.
I could be honest, it kinda looks like Yeti in the morning.
Okay, it does kinda look like
It
a
looks like
yeti.
cotton candy,
Yeah,
a
it's a
big
very
white
woolly
puff ball.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm not
and a big puffball is one of the things how I saw it described by somebody,
Yeah.
was just a big white puffball in the grass, basically.
Also, if that was real and they're taking a picture and it's a black and white, a lot of times that contrast makes it really hard to identify something
Mhm.
because it's hard to get good detail in both when it's that
Mhm.
contrasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's either super grainy if you use the really high
Yeah.
speed film and
Mhm.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It looks in a there is a better photo, and just search Alan Plaster photograph Lake Worth monster, and you'll see higher quality versions of this photo.
Okay.
This one looks like it's slightly grainy and sort of chopped off at the
oh, yeah,
head.
I see some pictures of it now.
Yeah, but, yeah, that's basically it. The fact that it's so black and white and they took it at night with a flash, like, you're not hiding with a flash bulb in the for one of those.
No,
No.
especially also, Christina can attest as to when we were at Bobby Mackey's and I was using my flash. Flashes are bright and they will wash out,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um,
Well, when I would be ghost hunting and somebody was gonna take a photo with a flash, you prompted everyone and you would just call out "flash" before you actually pressed the shutter button, so
oh
everyone had
yeah,
an opportunity to close their eyes.
I didn't really do that, but a guy
As
complained, "You're blinding everybody." Tough shit. Sorry, don't care about you. Don't look at the camera.
yeah, we would do a courtesy flash just to make sure. We also tend to use red lights too instead of the flashlights, or we'd put tape over our flashlights to make them red.
I
Anyway,
couldn't take any photos if I didn't have flash. You want
long
photos, don't you?
exposures.
Huh?
Long explode well, you need people not to walk in front of the camera.
That and I would have needed a tripod, and I'm not doing that.
True. Okay. So, the origin of the goat man. According to Michelle Villafranca, the resource specialist and resident expert on the Lake Worth monster at the Fort Worth Nature Center and Refuge, at least as of 2019, there has been a rehabilitation center in the area of the refuge in the 1960s. The rehabilitation center was not for goats, it was for people. And the center was a working farm and it did house goats. So basically, people who were recovering from addiction would go to this rehabilitation center and they would work this farm. Goats paved the way to healing, everyone. And the story goes that one of the residents of the rehabilitation center dressed up as a goat man because of the goats at the center. And Michelle goes on to say, one of the stories that I've heard is that the person who was here at the facility at the time was the goat man, and that he maybe dressed up in some of the Yeti type suits. So this person, and I don't know his name, is said to have gone out, and from here you can hike back through the woods to the ridge where the monster was said to have thrown a tire. So now what was the rehabilitation center is now one of the buildings in the nature center.
Mm.
So they still use it. Which calls into a lot of questions. Was it a hoax? In 1999, KDFW did an in-depth report about the Lake Worth monster. Some of the original witnesses were interviewed for the report, such as reporter Jim Mars and Sally Ann Clark, who later passed away in 2009. It was also revealed in the report that some high school students admitted to the police that they had pranked people by dressing up in a gorilla suit and parading around the lake in 1969. Alan Plaster even admitted that he may have been a victim of this hoax and his photo was an unintended result of the prank. The tire rolling incident seems to have been an accident, according to the person who perpetrated it. He was a local teenager at the time hanging anti war protest signs around the nature center. He admitted in 2009 to rolling the tire around with some friends when it hit a bump and they lost control of it, nearly hitting some onlookers. The area where they were hanging out was often used as a local dump site, and the tire had been dumped there previously. So, what in the end do we still have a goat man? The Lake Worth
I-
monster has become an enduring piece of local culture. So much so that the Fort Worth Nature Center and Refuge holds an annual Lake Worth Monster Bash every October. This year, it will be on October 26th. The Fort Worth Nature Center and Refuge is the United States' largest municipality owned and run wildlife center at a whopping 3,621 acres. And somewhere out there is the Goat Man and a whole bunch of bison. And now I am
So,
done.
how do they account for the height though? When the kid admitted to the tire incident, didn't everybody say they saw him really tall, or was he
Yeah,
up on a hill
so
or something?
witnesses said that the goat man was around 6'2",
Okay,
or about there,
well,
maybe
someone
even up
could
to
be that
7
tall.
feet.
Okay.
And, this person basically, there's a cliff ledge
Mm,
that looks over a part of Greer Island,
mhm.
and that cliff area was a popular dump site back in the
Okay.
'60s, and the kids were just they had been hanging anti-war protest signs around the area.
Mhm,
They lived about a half a mile away from
mm,
the nature center, and they would just hang around the nature center 'cause, "It seems like a cool place, why not?" But they were hanging up signs, and at some point, they were just, playing around with stuff that they found in the dump site, were playing around with this tire, and it got away from them and flew off the cliff,
mm.
and
So
people just happened
perspective.
to be under
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so perspective. And it's just kinda like with the Mothman, how do people know exactly how big the Mothman is? Like,
Yeah.
you're seeing fleeting glimpses of the Mothman as
Mhm,
he's flying at you or flying past you.
mm.
So, this is best guess, and people are very bad at estimating,
Yes. Yes, they
like, length or width or height.
Yeah, I would be. I'm not good at that, or
I am
distance, or
terrible.
yeah.
How many goat cryptids are there? Because there's the one in Louisville.
Yeah,
Is it
that's the
Louisville?
public monster. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
little
public.
yeah,
And
and
what are
then,
there others?
the other well-known one is, Prince George's County's Goatman, and that one's
Mhm,
just goes by Goatman. I just put
mhm.
on Prince George's County because to specify. So these
Mhm.
are the 3 big goatmen.
Is, the chupacabra considered a goat man?
I don't think so, I thought it was a
No?
lizard.
Oh, he ate goats.
Yes.
Okay.
That's literally, I think, what chupacabra means,
Okay,
goat
goat
sucker.
eater. Okay.
So like, I want to see like fighting matches between these cryptids. Like who
Serious.
outweighs who, like in a
I
fight.
can illustrate that and make it happen.
I was gonna say that's your
I
next
think
comic
that'd be
book.
awesome.
If we
Yeah,
have time, we can animate it.
I know. Like what are the stats on Sasquatch versus,
Grassman.
Grassman or versus? I mean, that's kind of what the thing up in Centerville was. Crosswick Monster
Yes.
versus
Yeah,
Grassman.
yeah,
Who would really win?
yeah. But would the Canadian Melonheads beat out the Cleveland Melonheads? Like,
I
lots
don't
of good
know.
questions here. Um,
Hmm.
bad
What do you
Squatch
think? What
versus
do
Sasquatch.
what do our listeners think? Who wins in a fight?
Oh, there we go.
Who's the
Oh,
heavyweight champion of cryptids?
there's some good polls there we can do.
Mothman.
The summer. It can be the summer of
Well,
cryptids.
Mothman is always drawn rather muscular, so
And he can fly,
And has a great booty.
yeah,
apparently.
exactly. I
Okay.
mean, how awesome is
I
that?
got this squishy.
Oh,
He's
yes.
got the Loveland Frogman Festival. Squishy, squishy. He's got booty.
Oh
He's
yeah.
got a little butt.
Yes.
The only thing, what would be perfect, don't they, the statue, they rub the butt, right? So it's got like a little
Oh, do
shiny
they
spot.
really? Because the statue's
Needs a
pretty
shiny
new, isn't it? Because a guy from Art Academy designed it.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
a fairly recent statue, but yeah, people they still rub that butt.
So it needs a
Well, I
little
mean, what
shiny
else? I
spot.
mean, that makes sense. I mean, there's lots of statues people rub.
He
I've
sits
just
on my
been
desk. I
heard.
love him.
Aw.
That is cute.
Well, yeah, we've got the night crawler. I've got mine over there.
Here's my little night crawler.
Yeah,
He's
I
so
need to get a
cute.
night crawler.
Yum, 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 yum.
Well, they probably will be at the Frogman Festival next year, which
Has been announced it's happening.
yeah,
Yes.
March 1st.
Yes, it's going to be 2 days long. So,
Oh,
yep, they're
they're
extending it.
expanding.
Extending, yes.
Oh, so they did well this
I
year.
always
then.
have mixed feelings about that. Although, like, if you're going to fly here, especially, then that, there's that. At least
Yeah.
you're here longer.
Yeah,
But I actually like conventions that are one day.
I
Yeah.
kind of like it too, just as a vendor,
just-
because it can be painful standing for 2 days straight. It just hurts. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
I just, it's. I mean, I love being at conventions for a couple hours, but it's so hard to take that much time off from getting work done and stuff. But
As a
I mean, it is
vendor,
fun
do you
talking to people.
have to commit to the 2 days?
yes,
Yes.
yeah,
There's a fact that most conventions get very upset when people leave. Like a lot of times, people will leave on Sunday, like an hour or two early, which is not fair to the people that might come at the end of the convention. It says
Well,
it's
yeah.
open until 4 and everybody's gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
You
not
get there at
cool.
3, so that usually makes the convention pretty mad.
yeah.
Well, yeah.
There's clauses in the contracts we sign that say we'll be there for a specified amount of time,
Okay.
and along with other details, but that's one of them. And yes, Christina's right. The showrunner will be very upset if you leave early without a very good cause.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and they could choose to not have you come back. They can
Well, yeah.
blacklist you. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Frogman Festival is fun, and well, I'm going to see if I can come back. I know we'll definitely have a table. It's
Okay.
just I need
Did
to
you
look
see
up
that
when
someone else is having a Frogman Festival in
I did
October?
see that drama. I
Like
haven't caught up
counterfeit.
on it.
Counterfeit Frogman. I mean, I don't know if there is such a thing as a.
I mean, we live in
Frogman's
a
ours.
capitalist state, so they could run a Frogman Festival. I don't know if they can actually use the title Frogman Festival, because I don't know the state of the trademark at all. But
Frogman
yeah,
belongs to Ohio. Thank you.
that is very true. And also, does Frogman, can you trademark that name? Can you not trademark it? There's a lot of precedent
That's a good
before
question.
it of people who have marketed things both domestic and internationally. So there's a lot of questions.
You have to file for a trademark, and
It takes
I
a
have a
long
client
time.
that likes to trademark everything, and you have to prove that. I mean, it's sometimes hard to get that trademark, but it's amazing what people try to trademark so that they can. As a matter of fact, that was a big discussion a couple of years ago when Inktober was trademarked.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That
There
was
was
a
a
big
big
thing.
drama about that, I thought.
It was.
Yes.
There was. It followed back to back with that, then an art book. And that
Yes.
Jake Parker did. So I understand what Jake was saying with trying to keep counterfeit merch from happening, but then also you were trying to make merch happen. So
Yeah, it's I think it's complicated when you do something like that becomes really popular. Like the Frogman Festival is a good example. Somebody could trademark it, and then
yeah, like San Diego Comic Con has trademarked the term Comic Con. And so that's why you
what
see
it's
comic
Expo,
expos
yeah,
now.
and stuff, 'cause they can't
Yeah.
use the unless you pay for it, I guess.
You know,
Yes.
it's like trying to trademark the word "the." No.
Well, they won't let you. No, they're supposed to pretend how much money you have if you want.
Yes. Well, Paris Hilton tried to trademark "It's Hot" like 20 years ago.
Oh
So
yeah,
Did she
I don't think they
really?
let her though, did they?
no, it was
Okay,
denied.
because
But
like Disney
this
was trying to trademark Day of the Dead or you like remember when they were doing their
Dia de
Yeah.
los
Dia
Muertos.
yeah, they were trying to trademark that and they didn't get the trademark, I don't think.
Yeah, they're
Good.
not
They were
gonna
trying
get
to.
that.
If anyone should trademark it, it's Mexico.
What
You never know what
generally, yes, there's a lot of
what the
cultures within Mexico that celebrate Dia de los Muertos, but that
No one
it's
should have
too
a trademark
nebulous.
on a holiday.
Yeah, it's too difficult.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to
Disney.
that
When you
anyway.
have enough trademarks you go after people for.
true.
Yes, speaking as someone from the artist
Well, what
groups,
was it? Colonel Sanders lost the rights to his own image.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
Well,
it's
so did
interesting.
Bob Ross.
Yeah, well, it's
mm,
interesting how that works because a lot of people would say, like in some of the early Star Wars toys, why did they not look like the person? And it's because they
mhm,
didn't have the rights to make it look like the person.
Right.
yeah,
You have to pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, now I think they do because that's usually bundled in their contracts when they,
Well, yeah, that's what
yeah,
the whole
but it wasn't
Hollywood
always.
strike was last year. Was that last
mhm,
year?
Yeah, now they just
With
scan you.
Yeah, with AI and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, now
yep,
now they just scan you and use your likeness later,
Yeah.
which that's creepy.
mm, yes, it is, and
The world is a
unsettling.
messed up place,
It's
It
just
it
it's
seems to
like it's
be.
written for horror movies or
right?
Or
something.
Black Mirror. Everything's Black Mirror.
Yes.
Everything's Black Mirror. Yeah,
I
everything's
mean,
Black
everything.
Mirror now.
It's funny because there's a podcast I watch, and they were talking about AI, and they were saying everybody keeps saying all these great things that AI can do, and they said, but most of the stuff that AI is really good at doing are things that are terrible, like
Yeah.
making your voice, like copying your voice and calling your grandma and saying you've been kidnapped, or it's going to be
Yes,
used for so much nefarious stuff.
Well,
I
yeah.
am not a fan of AI at all.
Mm-mm.
No one is. No one is.
I want to play with it for photo purposes,
Mm,
So your AI can't.
but they're like Photoshop has a beta version of AI generation right now.
yep,
You can
I
use
played
your
around
own,
with it last week.
huh?
I played
You were
around
playing
with it
around with
last
it.
week.
I just downloaded
Like,
it.
I explained yeah, what was your experience with it?
Well, I was just like 5 minutes tonight. I played with it, but you can use your own photos.
Yes.
So for me, I would use it to enhance what I've already done,
Mhm.
not to completely add in things that were not produced by me. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah, you're just enhancing photos, kinda like adding filter type of stuff to
Yeah.
it.
I
Yeah.
mean, if they use that technology to like take an out of focus image that you take and maybe help make it more focused.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or
I
like
mean,
with
I think that
Grammarly
I think that that's more
Mhm.
useful than
writing the
using
entire
people's
thing for
artwork
you.
to I mean, really prompts to me are just sort of like a Google image search.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the thing that I've taken from the way people are using the artwork is that it's not very controllable. So, like
Mm-mm.
when you put a prompt in, and so that makes it difficult for storytelling because
Mhm.
Right.
you need things to be consistent and like even if you put the same prompt in twice, it might not be the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
What
So
Yeah.
I'm
and
interested in doing with sorry, is like I always have trouble when I'm taking like a landscape photo with the sky and the landscape matching. Every photographer has this problem. The contrast is too great. So I would love to be able to kind of fix that in Photoshop and just play around with that.
right.
Mhm.
But you can
Yeah.
tell an AI generated image, when it's not real.
They're getting better, but
So far, yeah.
as a funny aside, so, last week I submitted Zombio to a book award,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
one of the requests that the body who's reviewing all these, submissions was to have photos of the people who created them, because if you've used AI, you can't they don't want AI books, basically.
Well, yeah.
And it's just part of, like, promotional. If we won, they would show photos of us.
Mm.
And I had a photo of Mike looking through Zombio, because he wrote the book when he was
Mhm.
9, but he wrote the book, so I have a photo of him looking through the book for the first time as a graphic novel,
Mhm.
except for it's in our living room, and it's extremely messy. It's a great
Oh.
shot of him,
Mhm.
but it looks like a tornado has gone through our family room. And so I'm like, "Well, crap. I wanna use this photo, but it looks terrible. So what can I do?"
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Well, first I can blur it, so I can just make it slightly out of focus."
Mhm.
And, that's ultimately what I did. But I used the opportunity to play with Adobe's AI to try to
Mhm.
see what it would replace it with.
Yeah, what did it do?
So all I did was space. That was its prompt, was space.
Uh-huh.
I really should have just saved these photos because they were just ridiculous. Um, what the first one it naturally did, it put outer space in the living room. It was like Mike holding a book and he's floating. Like,
You should have
I'm like,
saved
"No."
that. That sounds really good.
I should have saved it. I wasn't thinking. The other thing it did was it made an office space behind him. So it basically turned our TV that you can see in the background into
Mhm.
the monitor for a very obscenely large computer desk. I looked at that, I'm like, "That's not gonna work."
I
And
mean,
then
it's very uncontrollable, and maybe
Yeah.
eventually it
uncontrollable.
won't be. But there was something a friend posted the other day, and there was a guy that was a art director for some movie, and they wanted him to hire a bunch of people that did AI stuff, and he
Okay.
said like the first round of stuff was really good, but he said they couldn't make simple changes like I want this to be green instead of blue, or I want this to be, because you can't, like, when you do a prompt again, it's not the same. And they weren't good at like drawing or editing in Photoshop. And so
Mhm.
it just got worse and worse because
Right.
they just like it's sort of a deconstruction of the creative process.
It
Yeah.
really is.
Well,
And,
and if you're an
for
artist, you know how to fix those things,
yeah,
Yes.
that
hopefully.
was about what I was gonna say,
Yeah.
was for our listeners who are like, Why do you hate AI so much?" It's because I personally lost my first job thanks to it back in the early
True. Yeah. The
2010s. Google Translate is AI. It's really rudimentary AI, it's gotten better, but it's AI, and a lot of corporations decided to start using it for languages, and suddenly my linguistic career was out on the curb because AI could do it faster. The
Yeah.
problem is that it is terrible,
Yeah.
because especially with the nuance of language, you can have nouns that are synonyms, but they can mean different things in different context.
Yeah.
And you can have verbs and adjectives work the same way. Forget about slang. AI will never understand slang. It evolves
Mm-mm.
far too fast. But even like I've used Google Translate sometimes if I'm
Nope.
quizzing myself, like translating in my head things, and go, "Did I do this right? Is this how I do it?" Because you have different forms of verbs in Japanese.
Mhm.
And just to say, like, who prompted did the speaker prompt an action? Did a listener prompt an action? Like, is it outside? Is it inside? Where's all going from? And Google Translate cannot do that for you, or it will swap out verbs or nouns for things that are simpler translations
Mm.
but are wrong.
Yeah.
because And
Okay.
it will do that in a bunch of different languages. I just know Japanese the best. And so it's horrendous. And so if you want that nuance, you have to
You
use
need
people.
human.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you need a human because we understand language. We built language, and we understand the evolution of the language.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's the same. You can use it with the same argument with art. Like,
Well,
we
yeah.
understand art because we make art.
Well,
computers don't make art; they help us make art.
Mm-hmm.
But
and one wonders how long this will. I mean, one of the big things is that AI is not making any money,
Right.
and it costs a lot to have the computing power to do it.
Right.
And it's so I see it being something that's gonna probably have a hard stop at some point, just because nobody wants to pay for it.
yeah,
mean,
I hope
what I
so.
thought about Google Translate, it's still here 14 years
Yeah.
later.
But
So
all these tech companies are still trying to figure out how to make money too. I mean,
that is true.
Well, what
Like,
makes me mad about AI is that people are going to use it and just to make a quick buck and put crap out there.
oh, they
that
already have.
already happens.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
there's if you go to your local comic book convention, like a large one, do you
Mhm.
have we used to call them splatter artists, but now it's just upfront AI artists. They put in a prompt for like, let's put female Luigi in a haunted
Mm.
mansion with female Bowser, and boom, you've got it. They print it and they sell it. They put absolutely no effort
Do
into it.
people buy that though?
They do. Like, if you're a fan of something super niche and you see fan art for it, you'll
Yeah.
sell it or you'll buy it. And
Mhm.
there are people that are into gender bends of different characters. Like,
Yeah.
gender bend Bowser is super popular.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's a lot
Mm.
of very popular gender
Yeah,
swapping.
and some of the artists
groups.
that do it, fantastic. She looks
Mhm.
metal as hell,
Yeah.
but, like, they actually drew her, and they are
Yeah.
making the costumes and everything like that, or they'll cosplay as her, but that's a different thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, but you don't find too many fan artists actually selling those illustrations, but splatter
Yeah.
artists can because they're just doing it so quickly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't like that. When I was scrolling through Instagram one day and an ad came up for AI to write an entire novel.
Oh, no.
And I was like, huh.
Well, that's even
I'm tempted
affecting
to try it out just to see
No,
what
don't
it
do it.
does, but I
Please don't.
don't.
No.
Or you put your stuff in and it helps you figure out
Right.
plot
Well,
holes and stuff like that. But still, I don't want it'll keep that, right?
what
Like
will
if
keep
you said put your work in there, it's going to keep it and use it.
Yeah, not only is it gonna use it, but other people can then source it. So that's
No.
the other issue
Mhm.
with AI is that all those illustrations are being sourced by already existing artwork.
Well, yeah.
And
Okay.
I know several friends that are cartoonists that are in litigation right now against these AI companies because they're sourcing illegally without permission
Right.
their entire catalogs of artwork,
That's happening a lot, yeah.
entire graphic novels of artwork,
Do they
that
just
are
scan the internet and just input
Yeah, you
their
just use
stuff?
bots to, like, scan there are
Mm.
bots that scrape all the artwork off of Instagram and put it onto an alternative Instagram.
Oh.
So, yeah, if you ever wondered, yes, those exist, you can find yourself on other sites, and
No, so my
basically
photos could be out there.
Oh, yeah,
Everybody's everything
Yeah.
is.
that's one reason why if you ever look at my Instagram and
Mhm.
Facebook, a lot of times I'll put a watermark on my stuff, is
Mhm.
because not that it's going to disrupt the bots scraping stuff, it's because when they scrape it, at least it's encoded into the illustration where it came from.
Yeah.
And you
So
can also put that glaze on it.
that is
Yeah.
also true. There's
What
glazes that you can put on
what is
illustration.
that?
That messes
Photos.
up at a pixel level
Mhm.
when they try to use them as prompts, and a lot of
Mhm.
artists are using those now.
Oh, like
It's
a
called
reflective
poisoning
shirt
AI.
Oh
for
no, it's like it's actually a recoding of the image.
a
So when
recoding.
they scrape it,
Oh, okay.
it messes it up.
Mhm. Yeah,
But it
it's called
doesn't
poisoning.
obviously okay.
It's pretty
Yeah,
cool
That
technology.
is
it's
cool.
very cool. But anyway, thank you for all attending our anti-AI corner.
Yes.
Completely related to the Goatman, which I am sure
Sure.
there are AI images
Yeah.
of, and,
I mean,
we may
almost
wanna make this
everything
a
has.
bonus section of our show that we can put on at a later time. But anyway, um, I don't have all the information for our websites and stuff.
Oh, let me. I didn't do the ticker before. Here, let me add the ticker.
I am silly. I
How
forgot.
did
Here
you
it
guys
is.
add
You can read it.
your things under your names? Just
You
on
should
the
be
name
able
part?
to when you first get in.
Okay,
Mhm.
I'll do that next
Yeah,
time.
it will say your name and then it will be like a little extra box at the bottom.
And you
Okay.
can put
Anyway.
your website or whatever you want.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this 103rd episode of
Whoa.
Hometown Haunts podcast. Yeah, I say that. I'm like, wow, that's been a while. You can join our Facebook group at Hometown Haunts and share your stories there. You can find us at Cincy Cabinet of Curiosities on Instagram. And basically, find me at Red Cat Comics, Christina at ChristinaWald.com, and Jen is
At
Jen
JB Kohler
at JB Kohler.
on Instagram.
And if you have a ghost,
KOEHLER. Sorry.
it's okay. We'll put it at the bottom show notes. But you can also send your creepy cryptid stories, ghost stories, or other creepy tales from your neck of the woods to hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com. And also, please remember to rate and review our show so other spooky lovers like yourself can find us and share the goodness that is Goatman and all of the other cryptids from around the world. So thank you, everyone. Stay healthy. Stay spooky. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.